Over at the Orikhiv sector, at the Orikhiv sector, the Ukrainians continue their attack over at Novoprokopivka and Verbove. But of course, as usual, the front line have not really changed at Novoprokopivka. The front line is actually pretty much still in the southern part of Robotine. This Robotine is still pretty much over here. Geolocation also suggests that the Ukrainians are pretty much stuck in place. They are only purely holding the position around here. And military summary geolocated the Ukrainian forces to be here, and another geolocation by Creamy Capris actually geolocated Ukrainian forces to be here. So pretty much they're still at the forest line, and they can't really get out of it. It's pretty bad. The situation is quite bad actually. And then the Russians actually are reportedly conducting counterattack over at the Robotine region. So Ukrainian Defense Ministry as well as Deep State UA both talked about a Russian counterattack over at Robotine. So I'm not sure how big is this attack. Maybe they're claiming this is counterattack, but actually it's just the Russians shelling the hell out of these Ukrainian forces. This is actually very consistent with my theory that the Russians are simply tactically redrawing after their defensive position cannot be held, and then they just shell the hell out of the Ukrainian forces that continue to move forward into very hard to entrench positions, because the entrenchment has all been destroyed by the Ukrainians themselves. So the Russians will redraw. They will not fight for ground unnecessarily, and then they just hold a much more defendable position, and the Ukrainians are stuck in the no man's land. Ryba actually reported that the Ukrainians are still trying to attack around in the Robotine region, but to be honest, it looks very half-hearted in terms of the statement. It doesn't look like, it is something, like a true Ukrainian offensive. It doesn't look like it. It looks more like the Ukrainians just trying to, control their line, stabilize their line, and it is looking quite bad if the Russians keep shelling them. And geolocation of there's geolocation of Ukrainian forces over at this position by Creamy Capris. This one is on the August of 15. The units got shelled over there. They are holding this line. The Ukrainians are holding this line around here. This is what we know now. So this is an established line now. What is concerning for the Ukrainians is the use of flamethrower system, and it's pretty much in the rear position. So the Ukrainian forces they are gathering around this area, think that they are pretty safe, and then they got shelled by the flamethrower system. So pretty much everyone is dead. And it is possible to shell from this position because TOS-1A, the A version, has a 10-kilometer range. So basically, they can actually fire their artillery all the way out here, pretty far away. They can actually fire from here and hit their target. So the TOS-1A is not as short range as it used to be, and this is definitely a concern. Previously, we are seeing the shorter range versions, because of course they still have a lot of the short range versions, I guess. And this time around, to hit this position, I think it's a bit far for the old version. And over at the Novoprokopivka, there is appearance of reinforcement in the northeastern part of Novoprokopivka. We haven't seen the attack on Novoprokopivka, in a sustained way. As you can see, after 13, 15, 17, the attacks is very sporadic, and the Ukrainians seems to be sending reinforcement to be able to launch a major attack over at Novoprokopivka, but most probably it's going to fail given the tide of war. And we have fighting reported on the eastern part of Novoprokopivka. According to Ryba, they say that the Ukrainian forces are trying to attack near the key heights, advance towards the key heights of this Balkar-Kryvo or Balkar-Kryva. So the Ukrainian forces are still trying to attack Russian strongholds, strong positions around this area here, and this is actually geolocated. There is also a corroboration. There's a geolocation of attack. Now this is the front line here, where the Ukrainian infantry were actually storming the trench line. That seems to be running around here, and but they were discouraged by shelling of artillery systems. Artillery was shelling them, so they actually gave up the assault in the trench lines. And further geolocation of reinforcement. No, this is not geolocation. This is reinforcement of Ukrainian forces on the western part of Verbove. Further units of the 71st arrived over here. I think this is the Jaeger unit, probably going to send in for reinforcement because sorry, because the offensive have not been doing very particularly well right now, because the Russians are doing counter-offensive. And so according to Ryba, they reported that the Ukrainian forces were trying to attack towards Verbove. Russian Defense Ministry also highlighted that the 71st Jaeger Brigade is close to Verbove. Anyway, I'm going to soften the way, or relax the way how I talk. I'm running out of voice. So, calm down. The Russians are doing counteroffensive. Deep State UA reported that the Russians were doing counterattacks, which actually affect the advance, which I actually did mention. Geolocation of Russian forces by Crimean Caprice. Over here, they were attacked by the Ukrainian forces. This is the Russian front line, and so this actually confirms our mapping so far, that the Ukrainians have not managed to break this final line. Although we did geolocate them previously over here, they are supposed to do one more hop into Verbove. This did not happen. And geolocation continued to show that the Ukrainians are holding some entrenched position around this area here. So the situation over at this area here in the Orikhiv sector, Robotine, Verbove, the Ukrainians are pretty much stuck. They are trying to expand outwards. So let's see how this goes. I will talk more about this in the conclusions. We move on to the